Results called baptism by fire. The numbers speak for themselves. Not the kind of major league debut that young Tyler Duffey was hoping for last August in Toronto. Tonight, a shot at redemption on his own turf here in downtown Minneapolis. It's game 2 of this 4-game weekend series, and this Blue Jays and Twins series is presented by Echo Outdoor Power Equipment. Welcome inside Target Field. It's another picture-perfect spring night for baseball as the Twins look for a little revenge against the Blue Jays, who escaped with a 3-2 win last night. It's only been 9 months since Tyler Duffey made that major league debut, and we have been talking to him in the last 24 hours about maybe a little redemption and also the evolution of a pitcher who's now a lot more comfortable at the big league level.
It's definitely just a comfort level of being here. You know, I've pitched now. I know what I'm capable of. You know, pitched against some really good hitters. You know, faced Detroit, Chicago. You know, those lineups are pretty tough. I mean, Cleveland's got some good guys in there too. Just offhand, I can think of. But I mean, it's you know, you go into it every day, and you know, if you make good pitches, you can get guys out. You know, so that's the ultimate goal.
Tyler Duffey has been nothing but good since that initial start in the big leagues. But what does our Hall of Famer Burt Blyleven like best about Tyler Duffey? Find out next.
On Fox Sports North is presented by Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. By Dodge. Visit Dodge.com or your local dealer today. And by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine for the everyday competitor in all of us. It's another glorious night for baseball at Target Field. And tonight the Twins will try to beat the Jays, even the series at a game apiece. Hoping from Tyler Duffey to get something they've gotten on a regular basis, a quality start. He's pitched awfully well, and really going back to 2015 and through this year, he has been the Twins' most consistent starting pitcher. And we welcome you to Target Field. Dick and Bert with you for Game 2 of this series. Let's go back to Tyler Duffy's Major League debut in Toronto last year. There was a lot of clamoring to bring up Jose Barrios, and the Twins said, no, Barrios isn't quite ready yet. Tyler Duffy is ready to pitch up here. And although he didn't particularly like the results since that start, he's proven them to be right.
Yeah, he had a hiccup. He had a hiccup in that start against Toronto, and now he's got a chance to kind of redeem himself here tonight against the Blue Jays. But what I like about Tyler Duffy is he trusts his fastball and location. He will work both sides of the plate. He will come in on lefties, left-handers and right-handers. Opponent's batting average very low. And then he throws his curveball at a lot of different speeds, a lot of different angles. And he's not afraid to show emotion a little bit. But as you look at the curveball, look at the arm angle. He changes arm angles. Sometimes it doesn't work out. And there's the emotional part of Tyler Duffy. He's not afraid to show his teammates, hey, I care. I made a mistake. And gosh darn it, I'm going to do a lot better next time. He's hard on himself, and there's nothing wrong with that. Watch his emotions right here. You can see him. He's going to have a better inning the next inning.
He really punishes himself perhaps on every pitch. He's on the mound here tonight. He's kept the ball in the ballpark in almost all of his starts, except for that debut against the Blue Jays, and he can take matters into his own hands and come up with a better effort against Toronto tonight. Tyler Duffy on the mound in Game 2 with the Toronto Blue Jays. His second start against the Blue Jays. He made his debut against them in August of last year. And tonight's Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Clean Crisp Coors Light, the silver bullet. And since he was recalled, Tyler Duffy's on a pretty impressive list.
It really has. I mean, you know, over his last 13 starts, outstanding. But, you know, you're going to have some hiccups. He had just so happened to have the biggest hiccup so far in his career in his major league debut.
Well, John Gibbons back running the ball club after serving his 3-game suspension. DeMarlo Hale to his left managed the club in his absence. And the Menards batting order for the Blue Jays. A lot of familiar names from the debut of Duffy in Toronto last August. Bautista, Donaldson, Encarnacion, Justin Smoke, Michael Saunders, Troy Tulowitzki, Russell Martin, Ezekiel Carrera getting center field, and Ryan Goins getting second base.
And Duffy, 25 years old, making his 5th start of the year, his 15th career start. Both these pitchers here this evening do not have a lot of major league starts. Duffy coming off his first win in Cleveland, where he pitched 7 shutout innings. He's hoping to keep the zeros on the board as this game continues.
Bautista in the box. Here we go. And strike 1 with a fastball.
Well, it was Bautista that hit the grand slam in the 2nd inning in his debut that gave the Toronto Blue Jays a early 6-0 lead.
Duffy last year in 138 innings gave up just 1 home run in the minor leagues. Then gave up 2 in 2 innings to Toronto, and there's a breaking ball up a little bit, 2-1. Andy Fletcher calling balls and strikes tonight. Toby Basner, Mark Ripperger, and Joe West on the bases. Fouled away, and it's 2-2. In fact, keeping a ball in the ballpark has been Duffy's strength for several years now. Since his debut up here, not counting his major league debut, he's pitched 80 1/3 innings in the big leagues and given up just 4 home runs.
Yeah, even in the minor leagues, 43 innings, only 13 home runs allowed in the minor leagues. So he does a good job changing speeds, keeping the ball down.
2-hopper to short. Nunez slings it over to Mauer, 1 away. It's a nice swing and miss pitch, but he gets a lot of ground ball outs with that breaking ball as well. Northland Ford defense for the Twins. Making his Twins debut, Robbie Grossman in left. Danny Santana in center, Miguel Sano in right. Plouffe, Nunez, Polanco, Mauer, Dozier's the designated hitter, and Juan Centeno behind the plate. A week ago, Robbie Grossman wasn't even in the Twins organization. He was still with the Cleveland Indians organization.
In AAA, yeah.
And a big swing and a foul back by Donaldson. Donaldson hit a home run against Duffy in Toronto.
Donaldson last year the American League MVP when he hit .297, drove in 123 runs along with 41 home runs.
Missing the inside corner, 1-1. You talk about Duffy changing speeds with his breaking ball, but he seems to do it with his fastball too. He threw one to Bautista, 89, that 92. That's to left center field. And Grossman makes the catch. This is not his Target Field debut. He told me before the game today that he did play here while a member of the Houston Astros. 2 down.
Yeah, 3 seasons he wore a Houston Astro. That's Robbie Grossman. Beautiful.
You almost feel fortunate, I guess, if you hold this Toronto lineup to just 1 home run, but Encarnacion hit a big one last night.
Yeah, it was a mistake right there by Santana. That game tied the game at 2 apiece. About the only bad pitch that Irvin Santana made.
Fouled back.
You can see most opponents' home runs hit here at Target Field. There's Encarnacion with 8.
It's our Toyota key stat. And Duffy misses the inside corner again.
Yeah, I like what Jack Morris and Tom Hanneman did about Encarnacion in the pregame, talking about kind of an unsung hero. This guy has so much power. He swings hard, and a lot of times he'll make contact. And he can hit the ball a long way.
Both he and Bautista are free agents after this year. Breaking ball lifted to short right field. And Sano puts it away. A ground ball, a couple of fly balls, and a quick 1-2-3 first for Tyler Duffy. Twins television from Target Field. What was this all about after the third out?
Well, you know, the home plate umpire Andy Fletcher going over to Duffy, maybe talking about something about the speed, but Duffy worked okay, and whatever it was, they agreed upon.
Menard's batting order for the Twins. Brian Dozier, the designated hitter for the first time in his major league career. Eduardo Nunez, Joe Mauer, Miguel Sano, Trevor Plouffe, Jorge Polanco, Robbie Grossman, Juan Centeno, and Danny Santana.
And Aaron Sanchez on the mound for the Blue Jays. This guy, we're talking about curveballs with Duffy. This guy also has a very good curveball, and he has been outstanding. 6 of his 8 starts have been quality starts.
Dozier, first pitch liner to Donaldson, 1 away. Northland Ford defense for Toronto. Michael Saunders is in left field. Ezekiel Carrera getting a start in center in place of Pilar. Jose Bautista in right. Donaldson, Tulowitzki, Goins smoke the infielders, and Russell Martin behind the plate. 1 down. Here's Eduardo Nunez.
Yeah, Sanchez with a good fastball in the low 90s, mid 90s. Very good curveball and a changeup. When he's on, he'll get a lot of ground ball outs.
Off the, I beg your pardon, on the outside corner, strike 1.
94-mile-an-hour fastball, making his second career start against the Twins.
Chop foul, 2 strikes.
Sanchez coming in with a 3.29 earned run average. 52 innings, 45 strikeouts. He has walked 21 batters.
0-2 to Nunez. 1-2.
There's the curveball right there. His start last year came here on May 30th. He got a no decision in the Twins 3-2 win.
And a 1 hopper back to the mound. 2 down. That'll get us to Joe Mauer, but first, time now for greater coverage of baseball. Brought to you by T-Mobile. News and notes from around baseball. For sale, 9-0 on the year. Complete game of victory for the lefty. Matt Carpenter with 6 runs batted in last night. And Tim Lincecum completed his deal with the Angels after many MRIs. The Angels signed him to a contract. Here's Mauer. And there is strike 1. Interesting to see how Lincecum's stuff and his unique delivery, you know, transfers to the American League. Doesn't have the lively arm that he had in his Cy Young days with the Giants. 1-1.
I think the former Cy Young Award winner, you know, he's put a lot of time and effort into getting healthy again, and he's got a good idea what he's got to do out there. Angels need some help. They've been struggling a little bit this year.
What, a dozen injuries to the first 25 original 25-man roster. 1-1. And Mauer takes outside 2-1. Tap foul, 2-2.
Mauer got to get going again. He's been struggling a little bit.
Great April and a disappointing May, kind of reflecting what the team has done in May. Well, the team didn't do much better in April. 2-2, trying to get Sano to the plate here in the first inning. Just off the plate, 3-2. One thing we've noticed, Joe's not only not getting hits in May, he's not drawing the walks that he got in April.
Well, this curveball staying outside.
26 walks, 25 strikeouts on the year for Mauer. And another one, this one chopped over the mound, and Tulowitzki charges and fires, and each starting pitcher has a good 1-2-3 inning.
Sports North. I'm Marnie Gellner at Tink Larson Field in Waseca, where the high school team played for the first time this season. There was a fire here on April 6th that completely destroyed the grandstand, but the people in this community, with a little help from the Twins, got this field back in playing condition, and they played here today. And the Waseca Blue Jays ended up losing in extra innings here this afternoon, but Dick and Bert, the important thing is that baseball is back in Waseca.
Thank you, Marnie. Such a beautiful field and such a terrible tragedy, literally, for the community of Waseca. So many boys and girls playing on that field, and it's good to see that they're up and running again. Justin Smoke leading off the second.
Yeah, not only the community getting involved, and also tip our hat to the Minnesota Twins in helping restore that field again.
Smoke, Saunders, and Tulowitzki in the second inning. Duffy had a good first inning, 1, 2, 3. He has made 14 prior major league starts in his career and given the Twins 10 quality starts. Every start this year's been a quality start except for his first one. Here's a ball driven to right, and Sano plays the bounce nicely, and he'll hold Smoke to a single.
Yeah, great job by Sano right there, realizing that that was going to hit off the wall. And it looked like it hit right off the top of the padding and then ricocheted right back to Miguel. You just don't know what it's going to do off of that wall. Is it going to carry him maybe left or right or go straight up? But look at that, just above the padding. And the ball coming back to Sano, and that keeps Smoke at first base.
Michael Saunders will bat. Anyway, Duffy's given the Twins 10 quality starts and 14 prior starts. His first start this year was not a quality start because, remember, he got drilled in the shoulder by a line drive starting that game against the Washington Nationals, left after 4 innings. Then there was his major league debut against Toronto, lasting just a couple of innings, and only 2 other times has he not given the Twins a quality start. 1-0 to Saunders. I guess what we're trying to say is, especially this year, as poorly as the Twins have pitched, you can't blame this guy. He looks like he's part of the solution and not part of the problem.
Just watching him, he just seems like he knows what he's doing or trying to do. Trying to get a ground ball. He got the ground ball, but it went through the infield.
A pair of singles to start the second inning.
Not a bad pitch. A pitch down, but Saunders just hitting it sharply past Polanco into right field. He's had a couple double plays turned behind him this year, but you see the pitch selection. He does trust his fastball, and of course fastball, curveball, and occasional changeup, but he changes off that curveball so frequently that it almost, you can almost put a more brown area into that. It was a great job at adding and subtracting, as Irvin Santana did last night.
Tulowitzki stung the ball hard in last night's game, particularly his last couple of at-bats. Breaking ball over for a strike. Tulowitzki nearly got the game-winning run batted in with a drive in the 9th inning, hauled down by the bullpen area by Danny Santana. Then he did in the 11th inning get the eventual game-winning hit. 1 strike. And now off the plate, 1-1.
Tulowitzki, just 31 years old. This is the 11th season in the majors. 10 of those with the Rockies, coming over from the Rockies last year.
On the outside corner. 1-2.
Fastball away. Pitcher's best friend right there. Pitcher's pitch.
Seems just tickling the corner down and away. And now 2-2.
The art of pitching is also knowing what that umpire behind home plate will give you. Joe West had a generous strike zone in last night's ball game. That made the game very quick. Made the guys realize when they went up to the at-bat, be swinging the bat. Anything close might be called.
Foul back.
Well, with 2 strikes, of course, he's trying to get it out. A lot of the strikeouts coming on that curveball. So 3 pitches, 2 of those probably be a curveball.
But as you said, he can change arm angles. He changes velocity on it. 2-2. Tapper to short. They might get 2 here. 1 and 2.
Well, I got out here about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and everybody was taking infield, and they were working on plays just like this. The infield turn double plays. Nunez makes sure he gives a good feed to Polanco, and now it's up to Polanco to turn the double play with a good throw over to Joe Mauer. So a nice turn of a double play. Turn third double play turn behind Duffy.
Blue Jays were contemplating a challenge, wondering whether Polanco had his foot on the bag at second base. And they decided not to challenge it. Here's Russell Martin, a runner at third now, and 2 down. Nice stop by Centeno. Breaking ball darting down and away, and Centeno was able to smother it.
These guys caught each other down. They pitched to each other down in AAA. Nice block right there. Centeno caught Duffy in his last start when he threw 7 shutout innings against the Indians.
And another breaking ball down and away.
Now he'll, you can almost see him. Okay, now those 2 breaking balls away. I started down the middle of the plate. Now I have to start that curveball over a little bit toward the hitter to make it break down and away. So those are the adjustments you have to do when you have a big breaking ball like he does. It's the art of visualization of how that ball breaks into the catcher's glove.
He might have lost his footing, or he seemed concerned about where he landed, perhaps. 3-0 to Martin. Carrera on deck. And a 4-pitch walk.
Looked like a pretty good pitch right there, but it was called ball 4. You can see where he lands right there. Good push off of that pitching rubber.
The Twins Flex Plan gives you the flexibility to choose your games and your number of seats. Choose in advance or even the day of the game, so don't plan, Flex Plan. Go to twinsbaseball.com/flex or call 800-33-TWINS to learn more. A 4-pitch walk to Russell Martin, and now Ezekiel Carrera. Kevin Pillar started the ball game last night in center field. Carrera gets the start here tonight. Down and away, 1-0.
Yeah, Carrera in his second season with the Blue Jays. He came up with the Indians in 2011. Spent some time with the Phillies and the Tigers.
High fly to right field, and Sano has it measured. And Duffy pitches around a couple of singles to start the inning, leaving runners at first and third. Sano will lead off the bottom of the second. runs in the second inning. Sano with 7 home runs, leading the team with 19 runs batted in, but the average down to 228. Plouffe has been Minnesota's steadiest hitter. And then Polanco. Sano did not face Sanchez last year, and so he'll be getting his first look at the right-hander.
Sanchez had a quick bottom of the first inning, 11 pitches, 7 for strikes.
Up and in, ball 1. Shoulder high and off Martin's glove, 2-0.
Sanchez joined the Blue Jays back in 2014 basically as a reliever. And then last year he actually started in the rotation, ended up getting hurt, and then when he was activated they put him back in the bullpen. But this year basically just a starter.
High chopper over the mound, and Tulowitzki has no play. Sano will get an infield hit, and he's aboard to start the second.
Yeah, that high chopper to the mound, it looked like Tulowitzki was shading Sano a little bit toward that third baseline. So a big hole up the middle. You don't see this too often in shifts today. Or actually nobody's up the middle, and Tulowitzki smartly knew that he had no throw to first base.
But you know what? I mean, Sano's ability to hit the ball to the right side has kept the Blue Jays from shifting. In this case, Goins behind the second base bag, so that's a hit that he got that he wouldn't have gotten if the Blue Jays had shifted him. But they're not going to shift him because we've seen him hit the ball where it's pitched. Plouffe lines 1 foul, 1 strike. Trevor has been Minnesota's most consistent hitter with a DL stint in the middle of his season so far. And he takes strike 2. Sanchez fell behind Sano, gave up an infield hit. Now he jumps out ahead of Plouffe quickly. 0-2. Breaking ball, beaten foul.
Sanchez making his 9th start this year, only his 20th major league start.
And foul back. 97 miles per hour. 20-mile-per-hour spread. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's a lot like Duffy. He has a straight change, but he'll take something off that curveball too. And he'll add to it.
On the outside corner at 96. 1 away.
Good fastball. The first strikeout of the ball game goes to Sanchez. You see Martin sitting right there, ball clipping the corner.
I say that Martin is one of the best at stealing pitches for his pitcher, framing it, if you will. 1 down. Here's Jorge Polanco. Polanco getting a chance at second base, with Dozier DHing for the first time in his big league career. Popped up to center field. Carrera hardly has to move. 2 down. Before Robbie Grossman's Twins debut, let's find Kevin Gorg.
Yeah, here comes Robbie Grossman, the Texas native. 3 things about this young man as he makes his debut tonight. Well, as I mentioned, he's from Texas and he loves football, but he hates the Cowboys and loves the Houston Texans. His boyhood hero was former Astros superstar Craig Biggio. And here's one. He loves that he's been moved to Minnesota, guys, because his favorite thing to do when he's not playing baseball is fishing. He's done it down in Texas, but we've got 10,000 lakes. This guy's going to feel right at home.
Thank you, Kevin.
And that one driven fair into the left field corner. It hits the sidewall. Sano to third, and they're going to wave him around. The ball cut off. Throw to the plate. Not in time. The ball gets away from Martin. And Grossman on the first pitch he sees as a Twin drives in Sano with a double. Gene Glenn waited for the last possible moment to send Sano. And they decided to run on Saunders' arm. And that led to the Twins' run.
They also looked at the carom that went off the wall. That's what Gene did. But welcome to Minnesota. Robbie Grossman, inside out swing right down that left field line. You see Saunders he thought that ball was going to go in the corner. So by the time he got to it, Sano was right there at the bag, and he told Sano to keep going.
Here's Centeno. We talk from time to time about late stop signs. That was a late goal sign.
An RBI double, and then the error by the third baseman Donaldson to allow Grossman to go from second to third.
1-0. And fouled to back. It's 1-1. As they did last night, the Twins jump out in front. Last night it was a first inning run. Tonight they're on the board in the second inning. Chop right side. Smoke flips to the pitcher Sanchez, and that closes out the second inning. But Robbie Grossman with a 2-out double to drive in a run in his first at bat as a Twin. Sports North is presented by CenturyLink. Switch to CenturyLink Prism TV for an advanced TV experience. Learn more at cprismtv.com. And by Budweiser. This Bud's for you. Robbie Grossman jumping on the first pitch, cracking an RBI double with 2 out in the second. Tyler Duffy with a 1-0 lead. Here's Ryan Goins taking strike one. Goins, Bautista, and Donaldson in the Toronto third.
Yeah, the ruling on the Grossman double, the error went to Goins rather than Donaldson. So it was E4.
Okay. Breaking ball on the outside corner, and it's 0-2. And a ground ball to Polanco. An easy play, 1 down. And back to Jose Bautista. We talked about his debut against the Blue Jays. Gave up a couple of home runs to right-handed batters, but there's a wide split for Duffy. Very, very effective against righties, but lefties have given him some trouble.
And his career right-handers are hitting .224, left-handers .275.
So you can understand why in spring training the Twins wanted him to work a lot on his changeup, a pitch that would be very effective if commanded against a left-handed batter. And Duffy cursing at himself after missing again. 2-0.
Not afraid to show emotion.
A base hit to left, a liner pulled through the short hole between Plouffe and Nunez, a one-out single.
Well, with Bautista here at Target Field, anytime he gets a hit, as long as it's not over the fence, seem like you've done something.
We'll bring up last year's league MVP, Josh Donaldson.
His scouting report from Neil Allen, basically locate the off-speed pitch, very aggressive first ball hitter, and don't make mistakes with the fastball. I thought Irvin Santana did a great job of pitching to him last night, especially inside, struck him out up and in.
Fly ball down the right field line.
And you got to go away with that fastball right there. Centeno sitting inside, the ball left out over the plate.
It's 92-93. Let's take another look at the first pitch to Donaldson here.
Well, watch the catcher, Centeno. Where's he setting up? And you can see the ball had a little, like almost like a two-seamer he was trying to run in there. And Donaldson just got underneath it.
Up and away. 1-1. I think you can see from the center field camera, and we got the perfect view here at Target Field. And Duffy's fastball, the two-seamer, does have downward movement, and that would explain why he typically doesn't give up many home runs.
Well, that last one more the four-seam fastball. He tried to run down and away.
There's a breaking ball over.
Good quick curveball there.
Doesn't have a strikeout yet. One and two to Donaldson. Got a pitch up, got a foul back. Came into the game 15 strikeouts, 14 innings in May.
See if we get another ground ball right here. Got the ground ball in the second inning off the bat of Tulowitzki. Turned to double play.
And Centeno blocks. 2-2. Bautista back.
Yeah, Toronto not much of a running ball club. 14 stolen bases in 19 tries. Bautista is 1 for 1. One stolen base, also been caught once.
Just off the outside corner, and it's a full count. Duffy wanted that pitch.
Tight fastball down and away. Ball outside.
Full count. Keep an eye on Bautista here. See if he takes off. Donaldson, like just about everybody in this Toronto lineup, very strikeout prone. Bautista goes, and the pitch lifted to deep left field. Back is Grossman, and that ball is gone into the second deck.
Well, he hung a curveball right there, and Donaldson and that Toronto Blue Jay power. Donaldson hitting his 10th home run. So he tried to trick him with a curveball, but Ramirez do a little pitch-by-pitch fastball. And another fastball misses. 1-1 count. Good curveball right there. And he didn't get in far enough again. Missed with a breaking ball. Tried the outer half of the plate. Just missed. And then the high curveball.
Here is Encarnacion. Popped up near the Twins dugout. Mauer over, and it's on the roof.
Well, Donaldson's so strong. Good swing. Uppercut swing. Great contact. And into the second deck.
As a big leaguer, Duffy has now given up 7 big league home runs, 2 of them to Donaldson. One strike, and Encarnacion pops it up to short left. Grossman coming in, and with the catch, out number 2.
Threw a changeup right there, and Encarnacion way out front. Well, the American League MVP last year, Josh Donaldson, giving the Jays a 2-1 lead.
And now Justin Smoke. Twins will put an infield shift on for Smoke. Plouffe moving to the right side of second base. On the outside corner, a strike. Bounce to the left side and through, just out of the reach of Nunez. Just ducked the bat out, and with only one infielder there, he's able to, in a rather unique way, beat the shift. A 2-out single. Join Fox Sports North and the Minnesota Lynx at Mall of America for the Let's Celebrate the Lynx event, noon to 2 p.m. tomorrow. Enjoy interactive games, register to win tickets, and more. Visit foxsportsnorth.com. Click on upcoming events for details.
That's really pretty good hitting by Smoke, because it looked like a breaking ball away. He waited back nicely, just went the other way with it, and picked up his second hit.
And now Saunders, who singled his first time up. Down and in, ball 1. Pitch number 50 coming up for Duffy, with the Twins trailing 2-1. Blue Jays with 5 hits and a walk so far against Duffy. And of course, the biggest hit, the 2-run home run. Inside, and Centeno with a throw. Mauer reverting to his catching days, doing a nice job blocking a low throw. We've talked about that before. We've seen Centeno do that, just trying to make sure base runners are on their toes and not overextending their secondary lead. Asked Paul Molitor about that a few days ago, and he said, as a base runner, of course, Paul was one of the best. 2-0. And a one-hopper to Mauer, eventually gathering it in. There's the 3rd out. 3 hits for the Blue Jays and a long home run hit by Josh Donaldson to put the Blue Jays up 2-1. Twins baseball on Fox Sports North is presented by Northland Ford. Visit northlandford.com and your local Northland Ford dealer today. And by Grand Casino. The best stories start here. Down a run, Danny Santana leads off the third, and this bunt up the first base line, and it will stay fair and hit the bag. Santana last night bunted in front of Donaldson, and this one stayed in the dirt path. Remember earlier in the week we were at Comerica Park and there was no dirt between the grass and the foul line, very little dirt anyway. Here there's about a foot, and Santana's bunt rolled right up the baseline.
And Smoke, the only thing he could do when he got to the ball, you can see Santana's already by him. He has to let the ball roll, and you know, a lot of fields maybe will dictate that ball might roll foul, but that ball right there, even though the spin looked like it was going to, stayed fair.
Here's Dozier. He bunts or squares two, and there's strike one. I wonder if teams, I haven't seen them do it for a while, but for instance, when we go to Seattle on the next road trip, whether the coaches would take balls and roll them down the baseline each way to see whether there is some tilt to the base path or whether in this case it's pretty level and the ball will roll straight.
Believe it or not, we used to do that a lot throughout my playing days. Go out there as a pitching staff and kind of see.
Double play grounder to short. Tulowitzki, Goins, and two away now.
Taylor made double play right there off the bat of Dozier, a 6-4-3. So both starters have a double play turn behind them.
And now Nunez. Nunez with a one hopper back to Sanchez, his first time up. Swing and a miss at the fastball. What Santana's done really for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, but specifically in this series is what the Twins want Byron Buxton to do. The ball hit up the middle, and that'll be a base hit. They want Buxton to do that at AAA and then bring that bunting ability with him when he's recalled to the big leagues. Now, Buxton's missed about a week with a bad back. He's supposed to be in the lineup again tomorrow night. And as much as he's been hitting the ball hard, he has not worked much on his bunting down there. And as effective as it is for Santana, Buxton's even faster than Santana. Here's Mauer.
But Buxton hitting over 300 down there since being optioned down to AAA.
Max Kepler's really turning it on too down there in AAA. A lot of extra base hits. Nunez takes off, and a stolen base.
Yeah, a great jump. Martin made it a lot closer than it looked like it was going to be. So Nunez steals his 8th base, gets into scoring position with 2 outs. Got a very good jump. A head first slide. Tulowitzki, by the time he could apply the taggers with a sweep tag.
You can see leaving the glove on. Remember last night, Joe Mauer, a pop-up slide was called out after disengaging the base. I talked with Paul Molitor today about sliding. Of course, Paul was a advocate of head first sliding. 1-0 to Mauer with the tying run at second. And it was Molitor's contention that it's easier now because of the replay rule to stay in contact with the base if you go in head first. Some people discourage it still, saying, well, look at what happened to Josh Reddick last night. Slid in head first, busted his thumb. He's out 4 to 6 weeks for the A's. 3-0 to Mauer with Sano on deck. But as you just saw with the Tulowitzki, or was it Goins who fielded the throw?
Tulowitzki right here.
Now watch his glove.
Yeah, he tried to quick sweep tag, and then he kept the glove on that arm.
Just in case the hand left the bag without another part of the body touching the base. 3-0 to Mauer. And he takes a strike. It happened to Josh Reddick last night. A head first slide, and his thumb caught the base. And Paul was talking about all the different variables that come into, how to slide head first into any base, not first base, but second or third, and the surface itself, and how tacky it is, how the ball lined right to Tulowitzki to end the inning, and Nunez is left at second base. Nunez, with a steal of second, got to scoring position, but the Toronto Blue Jays still have a 2-1 lead. They're celebrating the inaugural Play Ball Weekend, a league-wide effort by MLB and all 30 clubs to engage young baseball fans and celebrate the continued support of youth participation in baseball and softball. The initiative officially launched last weekend, but of course the Twins are on the road. Today, Twins players challenge students at Whittier International Elementary to a game of wiffle ball. And with us to talk about that initiative and other things, Senior Director Community Relations of the Twins, Brian Donaldson. What was the final score of the game?
The kids won.
Did they?
They won. Yeah, they did.
Twins are really having a tough year then.
Well, these kids had an advantage. They were real quick, real fast.
Popped up down the right field line, and Sano will give it a look, but it is back into the seats. Well, let's talk about the impetus for this. It's a wonderful initiative, just getting kids and reminding kids, boys and girls, that there's a lot of ball to be played out there.
Yeah, the MLB Play Ball Initiative and what the Twins do, it's all about getting a bat and a glove in a kid's hand and being able just to try the game and get kids interested and really keeping the game strong, getting more kids into the game, raising participation. Which we have. Baseball is up 4% here over the last year in participation across the country and here in the Twin Cities. So we're going to keep plugging away at it. But yeah, it's about getting kids playing the game.
It's not only higher here. I think parents are finally realizing that kids need to get outside. You know, we went through that period of a lot of obesity, and I think parents now are saying, hey, get outside, go to the playground. It doesn't have to be baseball. Just stay active.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things we're seeing is it's not just an increase in league participation, but it's in these surveys. It's just kids having fun, going out and playing different types of baseball and softball. It doesn't have to be in league. It can be playing pickup just like, we did and the Twins players did when they were kids down the end of the block or playing with mom and dad, after work, something along those lines.
All these guys right here, we're showing Duffy right there, Tulowitzki. When they were younger, they had a dream of maybe playing baseball one day. How did they do it? Well, they started with Little League. They started up probably 3-4 years old, just tossing that ball around with mom and dad. And this is what this play ball is all about. Just play. You don't know.
2-2 to Tulowitzki. Martin and Carrera will follow. And another one pop foul, and this too will reach the seats down the right side. This is what Bert's talking about. There's Mike Trout, Clayton Kershaw, Buster Posey, Andrew McCutcheon, and David Price, Glenn Perkins, Joe Mauer. And so we encourage parents to get their kids involved at whatever level.
But it doesn't mean that you're going to be the next, David Price or whatever, but you're just outperforming and playing a sport, learning good sportsmanship, everything that comes with sports.
Bloof with the catch, one away.
Right, I know you have children there. You're going to let them play sports and have fun and get out there and, do different things.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really just about playing the game. We play when I get home in the backyard and signing kids up. But, it's a lot about making sure that the kids have the resources. Parents know where to go to sign their kids up. We have playballmn.com here locally that the Twins Community Fund supports. And you can go in there and put in your zip code and find a place to play if you don't know where to go. If you think that your kid should play in a league and don't know where to go, and you can utilize that.
Ball dropped into right field, a base hit for Russell Martin. He's reached both times. He reached on a 4-pitch walk. One of the critiques of baseball, one of the reasons that was given for lack of participation for many years is, well, it takes too many guys to play. It takes 9 guys on one side, 9 guys on the other. And for those of us who grew up in rural America, that's simply not true. We would find creative ways to play a game of baseball if we just had 4 or 5 guys out on the ball field in Dumont, Minnesota. We'd find a way to play a game.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing a lot more of that. Coaches trying to find a way to make practice a little more interactive and fun, and not just sit around and wait till one guy hits. And there's a lot of resources out there. USA Baseball actually has an application now in the 21st century, an application for your phone where youth coaches can go on and help plan your practice with this application and make it fun for all the kids there. Run stations if you have 1 coach or 2 coach and different options, and really make it just about getting the kids interested in playing. It's not always about playing a game. It's about just getting out there and in the sunshine and throwing the ball around and hitting the bat.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there's so many fathers out there that want to help and spend time with their son at a little league field somewhere, but maybe they've never coached before, so they can go to an app like this and get a daily program of basically how to keep everybody involved in different areas.
Yeah, if you don't know, if you've never done it before, but you want to be involved, there are those opportunities. The Twins Community Fund, we also host a coaches conference before the season starts every March. Just for that reason, there's a lot of parents who want to get involved, but they don't know. They played Little League 20 years ago, and they haven't touched a glove since. And how do you learn those skills, not only to teach your kids how to play the game, but to be a good coach, a good mentor, make sure that there's positivity in it, that everybody's enjoying it, whether they're a superstar or not, and really teach them, give them the tools they need to be a good coach without maybe being a superstar athlete in their own right.
2-0, and a swing and a miss by Ezekiel Carrera. Closely linked to this, Brian, is something that's been an ongoing effort. We had Marty Gellner down at Waseca, Minnesota, with the rebuilt Tink Larson Field. The Twins Community Fund has been very active in helping increase participation in baseball or softball through construction or restoration of ballparks all over the upper Midwest.
Yeah, one of our signature programs is the Fields for Kids program, where we help youth baseball and softball organizations to renovate ball fields in their town, make sure that kids have a place to play. Very important to us recently is Tink Larson Field in Waseca. We're looking at it here, that the grandstand, the historic grandstand, recently burned to the ground, and we were able to get them up and playing so that the high school team could play their final game of the season on this field. A lot of those seniors grew up playing on this field and were maybe not going to have a chance to play on it. They were able to do that at least for 1 game tonight.
Herrera takes a breaking ball. First strikeout of the night for Tyler Duffy. 2 down, and I know up in my neck of the woods where I went to high school, Staples High School, 5-6 years ago, the tornado destroyed the field in Wadena, and the Twins Community Fund very active in rebuilding that field as well.
Yeah, we get a lot of those calls if things happen, natural disasters, especially Wadena. That was really tragic. It took the ball field, it took the high school, and to be able to come in there and just with a little bit of help and give them what they need to just finish the field and get it back playing again. That's what it's all about.
Duffy fields, throws, and gets through the 4th inning. A scoreless 4th. Brian, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great weather for the Play Ball Initiative, Play Ball Weekend here at Target Field. And we've got a 2-1 ball game as we go to the bottom of the 4th. The fourth coming up. May 24th is U of M night at Target Field. A limited number of University of Minnesota theme night ticket packages are available that include a game ticket and maroon and gold Twins cap. Go to twinsbaseball.com U of M to learn more about the U of M theme night offer, and that triggers thoughts of sympathy and best wishes to the great many friends, family of Todd Oaks, and to Todd himself with some health issues, and Todd, longtime pitching coach at the University of Minnesota. And our thoughts and prayers are with you, Todd.
Yes.
And know that a lot of people that you've touched in the upper Midwest are on your prayer chain, my friend. Miguel Sano leading things off 1-0. And now 2-0. We got an infield hit leading off the second, and then put it into high gear, scoring from first on Robbie Grossman's double to the left field corner.
Had a good job there showing Gene Glenn right there, ascending Sano.
And a strike, 2-1. Of course, we're talking about Tink Larson Field in Waseca. Gene Glenn, the Waseca native, played on that field. And now strike 2. Sano's taken 4 pitches here to lead off the 4th inning. First Minnesota Mr. Basketball in 1975, Gene Glenn. And an off-speed pitch strikes out Sano, 1-1.
And then Sanchez picks up his second strikeout. Well, after taking a couple fastballs, Sanchez going to that good curveball. Great location.
Box Tracks presented by Dodge. Trevor Plouffe called out on strikes his first time up. To center. Carrera coming in, and a leaping catch in center. Ezekiel Carrera with a great catch to take a hit away from Trevor Plouffe.
Yeah, Carrera, very good speed out there. Got a great jump, came running in. And made a nice diving catch. Diving back toward the infield.
I would say
concentration.
2/3 of the diving catches you see in the outfield are unnecessary dives. That one was necessary. A tremendous catch. 2 down. And now Jorge Polanco. Touchdown. 1 strike. Polanco with a fly to center his first time up. It's lifted to short left, and now a sliding catch by Saunders, and the Twins go 3 up 3 down in the bottom of the 4th.
Jays in the saddle, 2-1, head to the top of the 5th as we stand in the middle of the Minnesota State Lottery winner's circle, which means 100 scratch-off tickets. The kids are having all kinds of fun. They made the sign, and Robin's here to supervise from Minneapolis. What a great night. You got the kids here with a cool sign. You got these nasty Blue Jays fans trying to rub it in our face, and you're out here trying to keep the peace.
It's an absolutely gorgeous night for a baseball game. It doesn't matter who wins. I just enjoy watching the Twins.
Well, you're going to enjoy 100 scratch-off tickets from the Minnesota State Lottery, and right now we're all getting circled by a Hall of Famer, Bert Blyleven. And guys, we're having a blast out here.
All right, Baudette, of course, way up there just north of Carp.
Yeah, you were all here by circle.
A bit west of Clemenson. Chopped foul.
Good two-seamer right there by Duffy.
Carsoup.com trivia question: who are the 2 Blue Jays to homer 3 times in a game against the Twins? One and 2 to Bautista. Pops straight up in the air. Centeno just out of reach. Ever spent any time way up in northern Minnesota in the Lake of the Woods area?
No, I have not. No. How about yourself?
I'm through there a couple times to go to Canada and some fishing trips years ago. 1 and 2 to Bautista. Donaldson and Encarnacion will follow.
I think with the Caravan, I was up there a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Way up there.
And a bouncer foul. We talked about it in our open last year in August. Twins needed to go to the minor leagues and call up a starting pitcher, and there was a lot of clamoring for Jose Barrios because he was the guy people had heard of. Not many people knew of Tyler Duffy. He started in Double-A last year, went to Triple-A, eventually finished in the big leagues. But the Twins resolutely said that Barrios wasn't ready yet to pitch in the big leagues, and that Duffy had the makeup to succeed up here. And lo and behold, I think they were right. We saw Barrios earlier this year, and as talented as he still is not maybe ready, needs a little more seasoning in AAA. Duffy made his start, was sent back down. Here's another pop-up foul. For a couple of starts, came right back up, and you could make the case, I think, Bert, that he was the best Twin starting pitcher in August and September of last year.
Yeah, he definitely was. Finished very strong, and he, you know, of course, because of the numbers in spring training, he was sent down to the minor leagues. He took it, and now he's back up. He's pitching well.
Just off the corner. He's tried to clip that corner 3 or 4 times and just missed. 3 and 2.
And we saw this in the Donaldson at bat where he just missed, and then he hung a breaking ball. See what they do here.
Better breaking ball, and it's dribbled to short. Nunez with that strong arm fires it across. 1 down. Last year, Double-A, Triple-A major leagues, 196 innings pitched, and remember the Twins were looking for signs in September that he was tiring, and he gave them no such signs. He was very strong up until the end, and he gave up just 5 home runs in nearly 200 innings last year at the 3 levels that he pitched. Donaldson with a fly to left, and then a long home run to put the Blue Jays in front, and again missing the outside corner.
He got a 3-2 curveball. Donaldson did, and hit that 2-run home run.
Fouled back.
That's always location, location, location. And it was the location of the pitch that Donaldson hit, a high breaking ball. What you like about Duffy, what I like about Duffy, is the way that he sometimes during a ball game you'll see him change. You know, he's got a good idea how to read the hitters.
3 hopper to Plouffe. 2 down.
And a lot of times you'll see that with guys that have maybe been around 4 or 5 years. You don't see it in a young, you know, guy like this that's made only this is his 15th major league start. And what I say about reading the hitters, you'll watch and he'll see maybe how he'll react to a certain pitch. Like right there, Donaldson swung really hard through a fastball. Seemed like he took a little off that next fastball, and Donaldson got hit the ground ball out.
As we were talking about before, how he changes speeds with all his pitches, and the fastball might be 92, 93, and the next one might be 89. The idea is to just get it off the barrel of the bat, a little bit out front, out on the end of the bat, up around the trademark, whatever you can do.
Well, one of the best of that was Catfish Hunter, all those great years he had with the A's and also the Yankees. Not overpowering stuff, but boy, he just added and subtracted. See, 93 high, 76 low.
Lifted to right field, and Sano toward the line has a long run, but he makes a foul ball catch, and Duffy has his second 1-2-3 inning. Pepsi fans of the game enjoying a beautiful night here at Target Field. Supposed to be gorgeous again tomorrow afternoon, Sunday afternoon. Temperatures in the low 80s. 2-1 ball game, and Robbie Grossman will lead things off in the fifth. Takes a strike over the inside corner. Sliced a double down the left field line to drive in Sano for the first run of the game back in the second inning.
Yes, first swing as a Twin. Getting that RBI double.
Mentioned that a week ago Grossman was still property of the Cleveland Indians. Had an opt-out clause in his contract. Twins picked him up. Ground ball scooped up by Goins. Played just one game for Rochester before his call up to the big leagues once again. Twins needed some experience and switched Rosario out for Grossman after the ball game the other day. One down, and now Juan Centeno. And it tells you that the Twins, at least for the time being, kind of exhausted everybody in-house in terms of outfield help. Darren Mastroianni was called up, had to be added to the 40-man roster. He's here, doesn't play much. And the Twins later this year might have an outfield of Rosario, Buxton, and Kepler, but they're all marinating in AAA right now. 1-1 to Centeno.
It's a nice dilemma to have if these kids go down and do well. I mean, Buxton went down. He's hitting over 300. Hopefully he's starting to get it. You know, Kepler's been swinging a good bat really in his first opportunities at the AAA level. Rosario didn't work out here. Hopefully he'll take that positive attitude, work hard down there. Polanco's been up the last 2 or 3 years to get the feel of what it is like up here.
Breaking ball and a called third strike, 2 down. That'll bring up Santana.
Strikeout number 3 in the ball game for Sanchez. Well, the big curveball right here.
And now Danny Santana dragged a bunt single up the first baseline, leading off the 3rd inning. Strike 1. One footnote on Rosario, you tend to forget that as he was sent down the other day, he had last year only 95 AAA at bats. And so you've got 3 guys down there who are being exposed now to AAA pitching for essentially the first time. Buxton had what, 55 AAA at bats before his demotion. Kepler had 6. They're working over the inside corner, and he hits it again, 1-2. 6 in a row set down by Sanchez after Nunez's single up the middle. And driven to right center field. Carrera chasing it, still chasing it, and that hits the warning track. A high hop will allow Santana to round second and gain third base with a 2-out triple. That's what we saw 2 years ago. The little guy can drive the ball, and he drove one about 400 feet from home plate.
Well, Centeno just took a curveball for strike 3, and then Sanchez tried to do the same with Santana. And on this one, Santana stayed back nicely, and you could see the power right there. Nice, easy swing. Drove Carrera all the way to the wall, could not get to it, and it's off to the races for Santana. And his quickness, look at the lower party, how quick those feet are.
And want to do a Nunez, you could see him tug on his helmet a couple of times to try to keep it on. Here's Dozier, strike 1.
The Twins need a big hit right here.
Dozier bounced into a double play his last time up, hit the first pitch he saw on a line to Donaldson in the first. Up and in, 1-1. And now 1-2.
I mentioned the last night with the Twins with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. They're hitting 182 as a ball club. That has to improve.
Popped up, backing out of play.
Joe Mauer in last night's ball game did get a 2-out RBI single, and that's when he overslid the bag at second base. See if Brian Dozier can do that here. Pick up Santana at third.
And Dozier strikes out. Santana left at third base, and it's still 2-1. 1.
For the second straight night, the Twins took an early lead, a 1-0 lead, thanks to Robbie Grossman's first bat as a Twin scored Sano from first base, made it a 1-0 ball game. But then in the top of the third inning, Josh Donaldson got a high curveball, hit it into the second deck for a 2-run home run, and that's where we're sitting at a 2-1 ball game. Both pitchers pitching well.
Duffy trying to be the first Twins starter to pick up his second win of the year. Not only are the 10 wins very disappointing for the Twins and their fans, but they've come from 9 different pitchers. The only 2-game winner is the closer, and that's not a good thing either. Kevin Jepsen has 2 wins. You can see Sanchez and Duffy have both pitched well, as Bert said.
Duffy's thrown a little bit too many pitches in 5 innings, 80 coming into this inning, where Sanchez has thrown only 58.
The Atlanta Braves have 10 wins from 10 different pitchers. Winning just 10 games is tough enough, but
way to spread the wealth around.
1-2, and a breaking ball, a slower one, gets a strikeout. Second strikeout for Duffy.
Duffy getting a Smoke on strikes after Smoke had a couple singles in his first 2 at-bats. Good tight break on that.
It is a swing and miss pitch, and I think you just saw why that time. It looked like he dropped down sidearm a little bit.
Yeah, he's got a good tight just right at the end. See, the 19th strikeout of the 25 have come on the curveball. So get ahead with the fastball. There's a breaking ball right there, missing.
Yeah, what, 3,701 strikeouts? Is that right? Do I remember that number?
Yes.
Give me a percentage that you think you got your strikeout. Oh, that one skips up the middle, a smash for a 1-out single. And Saunders is aboard with his second hit. What percentage of your strikeouts do you think you got with your curve, and what percentage with the fastball?
I'm going to say probably 60 or 70% probably on the curveball.
Really?
Yeah, but my fastball got me into that situation where I could drop the hammer and get him to strike out. And I think Duffy's the same type of pitcher. You know, get ahead with the fastball. He trusts his fastball. And that's important. And I think he has just as much confidence on his secondary pitch, and that's the curveball.
Here's Tulowitzki, bounced into a double play in the second, popped up to Plouffe in the 4th. You ever just invent a pitch out there?
All the time. For that year that 2 years I gave up 96 home runs in 2 years. I invented the lone pitch. I just loaned it out to the hitter. I didn't realize they'd hit it that far.
And a guy just caught a foul ball with his cap.
You don't need a glove. There are times you would like to throw the rosin bag up there.
1 strike to Tulowitzki. Breaking ball. Centeno looks back at first base.
Well, that's a pitch that right there that got the ground ball off of Tulowitzki in the second inning to get the double play. That ball is just down a little bit. Tulowitzki's been struggling, came in hitting only 196, but did get the big RBI single in last night's 12-inning win for the Jays.
And now outside again, 2-1. Two and one. That's to right center. Nobody's there. Slicing away from Santana. Deep drive. One hopping the wall. Saunders to third. They'll wave him around, and Tulowitzki with an RBI double. It's 3-1.
Well, sometimes you can have a low batting averages, but when you do get a hit, you drive in a run. That's his 22nd run batted in for Tulowitzki, who's hitting under 200. So very productive when he does get a hit. Fastball away, just took it the other way. He's probably rounding first base and say, that's a home run at Coors Field.
Well, probably said the same thing after his drive that Santana caught last night in the ninth inning.
Way back.
And strike one to Russell Martin. Walked on 4 pitches in the second and then singled, left aboard in the fourth. Nunez gathers himself, fires across, 2 down. And that'll bring up Carrera. Twins fans, if you can't catch the games on TV, you can stream them live on your mobile device with the all-new Fox Sports Go app. Download the app, take Fox Sports North and Twins baseball with you wherever you go.
I know it's only his 5th start, but it's only the 2nd time he has allowed 3 runs in a ball game. Duffy allowed 3 in 7 innings against the Chicago White Sox.
Carrera with a fly to right and a strikeout and a strike. And if he can get Carrera, if he can strand Tulowitzki, he will have completed 6 innings and it would be a quality start. And we make that out to be, you know, such a wonderful stat and a goal, when in fact, you know, as we've said, it's an ERA of 4.5. Right. It shouldn't be that uncommon to have a quality start.
I don't know where that came from. I wish it was 7 innings and 2 earned runs or less. To me, that is a very good quality start with a pitch count mounting now at 94. Trevor May getting loose.
2 strikes to Carrera. Breaking ball missing the outside corner, 1-2. I believe this to be true. The phrase quality start was coined by Hall of Fame Detroit baseball writer John Lowe, who's retired a year and a half ago. Fouled away, still 1-2. The save, I believe, was created by another Hall of Fame sports writer, Jerome Holtzman from Chicago. That's what we need to do. You and I need to come up with a stat in baseball which will help memorialize our more than 20 years working together.
Let me think about that.
Foul tip. Centeno can't hang on. Duffy with 97 pitches.
In his last start, where he threw 7 shutout innings against the Indians, he threw 110 pitches in 7 shutout innings. Trying to get through the 6th here.
Checked his swing, or did he?
I think it hit him.
Yeah. Well, they still needed to check to see whether he swung at the pitch, but the ball came inside, and Carrera will take first, having been hit by a pitch. And the number 9 batter, Ryan Goins, will bat. You can be hit by the pitch, but if you swung at it,
right,
it's a strike.
Yeah, take a look at this big breaking ball right here. Gets the back foot, the left foot of Carrera as he held up. Quick trip to the mound by Centeno. And Nunez, second hit batsman of the season for Duffy. We have a pinch hitter here. Paredes is going to hit for Goins.
Trevor May would be warmed up now to come into the game, but the Twins will let Duffy try to get Paredes out. They've added a run, Toronto has, here in the 6th inning. They're strike one.
Paredes just in last night's ball game played only his 3rd game for the Blue Jays last night. Picked up 1 hit in 5 plate appearances.
And a throw to second. He just got back. See, I like that. I just think that's a great thing for a catcher to do. They're throwing the ball around the infield all the time anyway. With guys on base, just keep the runners on their toes.
Yeah, keep them on the toes. You just want to make sure that you throw that ball in the air because there are 2 outs.
Right. 1-1 to Paredes. And now 2-1. To complete the thought I started with Paul Molitor, he said, you know, having a catcher throw behind him as a base runner never changed his eagerness to steal a base or ability to steal the base, because when a runner takes his secondary lead, when the ball's in the hitting zone, they should be balanced on both legs, not leaning toward the next base. Swing and a miss, 2-2. So you should be able to get back to the base you are occupying easily without fear of being picked off.
Yeah, but Paul was an exceptional.
Yes, he was. Two and two. And that one skips past Duffy into center field. Tulowitzki will score. And the throw all the way to Duffy, the pitcher, between the mound and home plate. And the pinch hitter delivers a big pinch hit. And it's 4-1.
Well, that breaking ball stayed up, and Paredes driving in a run. The breaking ball just hung right there. Paredes taking it right back up the middle. Duffy went down for it, but it got past him. And Tulowitzki scores the 2nd run of the inning.
The elusive 3rd out. He got ahead of Carrera, but then hit him with a breaking ball. The pinch hitter got a pinch hit. And it won't be a quality start for Tyler Duffy. In fact, he won't even complete 6 innings. He leaves with the Twins down 4-1. A difficult time racking up strikeouts. He ended up with what, just the 2 strikeouts?
Yes.
And so now Trevor May will come in. The Blue Jays have added a couple of runs and have 2 runners on with 2 out.
Well, Trevor's been struggling as of late. He had a terrible road trip where he worked in 3 games, a total of an inning and 2/3. Gave up 7 runs, 3 of those coming off of home runs. So making his 21st relief appearance. Hoping to have a clean outing here.
Starting with Bautista just to get the Twins off the field. Blue Jays got a 1-out RBI double from Tulowitzki and a big 2-out RBI single from Paredes. Breaking ball over, strike one.
Well, that's good because in his last outing, remember Kinsler, the first batter he faced, he threw him a fastball. Kinsler hit the home run. Got to mix in your other pitches. He's got a great fastball, but mix in that good changeup he has along with that hard curveball.
High fastball, 1-1. Drops a breaking ball, but missed. 2-1.
Nine hits for the Blue Jays. 4 runs so far. All of them charged to Tyler Duffy, as the 2 runners on base are his responsibility.
High fly to deep left field. Robbie Grossman goes back. He's at the wall, and it's gone. A 3-run home run. Herrera, Paredes, and Bautista all score, and it's a 5-run inning in the 6th.
Home run number 8 on the year for Bautista. I believe that's his 12th home run hit here at Target Field over his career. And you can see 22 over his career.
6 runs charged to Tyler Duffy, and May gives up another home run. Donaldson hit a home run back in the 3rd inning.
Oh, that got the umpire.
Oh my, that got Andy Fletcher.
See where it got him right here. It's a fastball.
Right in the collarbone.
Neck area. Dave Prumer, Twins head trainer, out to look at the umpire. Prumer in his 22nd year with the Twins.
Fletcher getting a couple of pats on the shoulder, saying let's go. And Centeno offers his apologies, I'm sure, for not getting the glove on that pitch. Imagine it's 95, 96 miles per hour, and you know, right on the collarbone. Ouch. 1-0 to Donaldson. He falls behind 2-0. And a strike, 2-1.
Well, you can throw as fast as May does, but if the ball doesn't have much movement and you fall behind an account, they're going to look at red like Bautista did. Donaldson swing through a 96-mile-an-hour fastball.
Two and two. The right center and deep. High off the wall on the scoreboard. And it is a double for Josh Donaldson. So May has given up a 3-run home run and a double to the first 2 batters he faces.
Well, I said you have to work in your secondary pitches. He got hurt in Detroit and Cleveland on just that fastball. Neil Allen back on the phone. But he didn't get anybody out on Tuesday in Detroit. Faced 4 batters. Gave up 3 runs.
Just missed going out by a couple of feet. 9th man to bat this inning is Edwin Encarnacion.
Donaldson with that double, his 11th of the year.
There's a breaking ball and a strike. Two strikes. And a raw speed pitch. It was a 2-1 ball game starting this 6th inning. And then landed in front of the plate, and Donaldson will alertly scamper to third. Wild pitch.
It'll be a wild pitch charged to May. That's his 6th wild pitch of the year.
And Tonkin in a hurry getting loose in the bullpen. And now 2-2. Nothing but off-speed pitches to Encarnacion. Duffy had 2 runs score on him in this inning. While he was there, 2 more inherited runners have scored.
Centeno and May not on the same page.
Breaking ball missing, and it's 3-2. May threw a curve for a strike. In fact, got 2 strikes on Encarnacion with breaking balls. Now a fastball hit to center, playable for Santana. That ends it. Good inning for Toronto, though, as they add 5 runs and now lead it 7-1. Blue Jays seem to like Target Field.
Well, they like Target Field and our pitching staff. 33 home runs in 22 games, and you know you keep leaving that fastball up, but it's a fastball hitting ball club. That's why Irvin Santana, I thought Duffy would do well tonight. He just struggled a little bit more with that curveball than his fastball. He didn't have the same stuff, and Toronto Blue Jays took advantage of a big blow of that 5-run inning was the home run by Batista, 3-run home run.
Nunez with a single and 2 trips. He's hit the ball right up the middle twice. Once back to the pitcher and once into center field. Strike 1.
Sanchez's pitch count outstanding. This will be number 60 in the ball game.
1-1.
Blue Jays very high on this young man right there. They drafted him number 1 back in 2010 out of Barstow High School in Barstow, California. Now makes his home down in Florida.
Where's Barstow?
Barstow is over by Victorville. Like
well, that helps me.
If you were going, say, toward Vegas from L.A., you would go through Victorville. And
okay, I have done that. I just don't remember Victorville. Yeah. 1-2. Swing and a miss, and Nunez strikes out. 1 away.
And strikeout number 5 for Sanchez. I mentioned earlier Sanchez a couple years ago. He's done a great job in the bullpen.
Darwin Barney is
at second base.
Second base. Joe Mauer with a bouncer to short and a liner to short. Twins had Nunez at second, 2 away. And Mauer hit a liner with Nunez at second base. Would have scored if it had gone through, but it was hit right to Tulowitzki. Hit the ball hard. Strike 1. Hey, did you know Wheelock Whitney at all?
I met him only a couple times. He was a very, very nice man.
Passed away today.
Yes.
At the age of
89.
Over the inside corner, 2 strikes.
Big sports enthusiast.
Instrumental in getting the Twins to come here and the creation of the Vikings, Minnesota North Stars. Served on the board of directors for the Twins during most of the Calvin Griffith ownership regime.
Our condolences to the Whitney family.
Minnie and Paul, created back in 1961 when the Twins came here from Washington, D.C. 0-2 to Mauer. Sano will follow.
Martin sitting away.
Wheelock Whitney was also the first season ticket holder for the Minnesota Twins, and he maintained season tickets all the way through the Metrodome years and into Target Field. And his season ticket right behind the Twins dugout. Season tickets, plural, a couple of them. And that's in the dirt. 2-2. Twins commemorated Whitney's season tickets here with jerseys draped over the seats, but then someone used the tickets. I think Wheelock would have liked that.
Yes.
2-2. And an off-speed pitch. Mauer strikes out. 2 down in the 6th.
3 strikeouts in a row for Sanchez.
MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you've come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. It includes a free subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details.
Well, Sanchez doing exactly what a pitcher wants to do after your team puts a big crooked number on the board. Go out and throw strikes, get them back on the bench to swing again. 6 strikeouts in the ballgame for Sanchez.
And now a pitch up, 2-0. Taylor Rogers getting loose out there. He may pick up the game in the 7th inning. Two and 0. Blast to left center field, headed toward the bullpen, and a one-hop drive. That'll be a double for Miguel Sano. A single in the 2nd inning, and now a double with 2 outs in the 6th.
Now Sanchez fell behind. He came in with a fastball, and Sano gave it a ride to the deepest part of the field, right in front of that bullpen area. The gate is 411 feet away. Sano catching up to a fastball. And a powerful Sano, and his swing. Great contact. Going right toward the bullpen. One hopping the fence. It's a 2-out double.
Strike one to Plouffe, called out on strikes in the second. He hit a little fly ball in front of Carrera. He made a great running, diving catch for the second out of the fourth inning. Just off the corner, 1-1. And now 1-2.
Sanchez again, just 23 years old, came into the ball game. This is his 9th start, 6 of his first 8 starts, quality starts.
Now 2-2.
75 pitches, 52 have been strikes. 11 in the first, 13 in the second, 10 in the third, 8 in the fourth, 16 in the fifth.
And he got a piece to keep the at-bat alive. Gorgeous night here at Target Field. Unfortunately, the scoreboard lopsided again, 7-1. Plouffe trying to deliver another 2-out hit here to trim the lead back by at least a run here in the 6th.
So we've seen a beautiful night, beautiful crowd, just an ugly scoreboard.
3-2 with Polanco on deck.
Six-run lead. I don't think they're going to try to trick Plouffe right here.
And target was inside, pitch was outside, 96 miles per hour, a strikeout, leaving Sano at second base. Blue Jays have gone deep twice tonight.
Yeah, Robbie Grossman getting an RBI double. That gave the Twins a 1-0 lead after 2 innings. But then in the third inning, a 2-run home run by Josh Donaldson gave the Blue Jays a 2-1 lead. And then a 5 runs put on by the Blue Jays in the 6th inning. A 2-run double by Tulowitzki, RBI single by Paredes. And then came Batista, a big 3-run home run. That coming off of Trevor May.
Taylor Rogers will pitch for the Twins here in the 7th inning. Justin Smoak will be the first man he faces.
Rogers just making his 3rd major league appearance. All the other 2 in relief. He last worked on Wednesday in Detroit. Pitched a couple innings in the Twins' 6-3 loss. Gave up a couple runs. A home run to Ian Kinsler. But who didn't give up a home run to Ian Kinsler? My goodness.
1-0 to Smoak. Struck out to start the 6th inning, and then the inning started to get away from Tyler Duffy and the Twins. And inside again, 2-0. Smoak with 2 singles in his first 2 at-bats.
Yeah, Rogers, 25 years old, signed by the Twins in 2012 out of the University of Kentucky.
On the ground, Nunez with a nice pickup, spins, fires. And we saw him do that last night on his great play to close out the 10th inning. Go ahead and use the ground here to get a truer hop to the first baseman.
Well, we saw some nice defense last night. Remember the catch of Danny Santana? This extended the ball game off of Jepson. And then this is the play you're talking about, Nunez from his knees, one-hopping Joe Mauer. Kinsler likes it.
1 strike to Michael Saunders. 1 out single in the 6th, and by inning's end, the Blue Jays had 5 runs on the board. 1-1. On the outside corner, 1-2.
Rogers with a good fastball, slurve type curveball.
Driven to deep right field. 3rd Blue Jay home run. 3rd hit of the night for Michael Saunders.
And that was a slurve type curveball that just kind of hung. So Saunders hitting his 7th home run of the year.
And it's 8-1. And we'll bring up Tulowitzki.
Taking a look at the breaking ball right here, just kind of hung. And left-handers like to drop the barrel of the bat just like Saunders did right there. The ball left the ballpark.
Tulowitzki takes a ball. And now 2-1. Just wide of the bag.
Tulowitzki in his 11th season in the big leagues came into this year a .297 career hitter. First 10 of the seasons with the Colorado Rockies.
And inside. Nunez cuts it off, and the phantom throw to first. He probably would not have gotten Tulowitzki anyway. It'll be a base hit. Behind the Roar is your all-access pass to the world champion Minnesota Lynx and the quest to defend their WNBA title. Get behind-the-scenes access to training camps, special events, and the home opener. Minnesota Lynx Behind the Roar tonight after the game, only on Fox Sports North. Now Russell Martin. Martin walked in the second, singled in the fourth, and hit a ground ball to Nunez for an out in the sixth. That was the second out. The Blue Jays at the time had just added 1 run, and it was a 3-1 ball game, but then the roof fell in. Just missing the corner.
Yeah, that breaking ball that Rogers has just doesn't have a lot of bite. It just kind of spins right there. It's a breaking ball. You almost have to start at the knees or thigh area and then make it break, kind of like that.
Rogers from Littleton, Colorado. Graduated from Chatfield High School in 2009. Littleton, of course, the city that also had Columbine High School, where there was the massacre 10 years prior.
He's got a twin brother that's actually in pro ball, a right-handed pitcher in the Giant organization, currently at Double-A. Richmond, that's where he's spending the summer.
That's to center, and Santana chasing it, and what a nice catch in center by Santana again. Just short of the warning track, a running, leaping catch for out number 2.
He almost overran that ball. He kind of had to reach back for it. I'll tell you what, the speed of Santana, it's fun to watch out in the outfield. Look at him go back, and then over the shoulder, Kite. See, he kind of behind him a little bit, but stayed with it with that open glove. And comes down with a very nice catch again.
2 down. And now Carrera. If the game turned in the 6th inning, the inning turned with Carrera being hit by a pitch. Duffy had gotten ahead of Carrera and threw a breaking ball, and it really was a backdoor breaking ball, back foot breaking ball, because it hit his back foot. And then Paredes got a big RBI single. Bautista hit the 3-run home run against May, and the lead got pushed out to 7-1. Two and 1. Peeled foul over the tarp. Rogers been out there now for 22 pitches, trying to come off the field with just the Saunders home run affecting the scoreboard. It's chased by Grossman and no play. Mentioned it last night. The Blue Jays played the Twins in Toronto around the trade deadline last year, right after the trade deadline. And at the trade deadline, the Twins actually had a better record than the Blue Jays did last July 31st. But then the Blue Jays got very aggressive in acquiring David Price, Tulowitzki, just off the plate 3-2. Got into the playoffs, and they've just kind of been struggling this year. Haven't put it all together.
Yeah, the starting staff isn't that bad. I mean, we saw a couple good ones already here in this 2-game series.
And we'll see Marcus Stroman later on in the series.
Right. But offensively, they just have not really clicked yet. They came in the American League hitting 234. Excuse me, 233. Twins hitting 234. That's the lowest average in the American League. Twins are tied with the Houston Astros hitting 234. But that'll change tonight.
Back to the mound, and Rogers has time, just enough time to retire the speedy Carrera. A home run by Michael Saunders, lefty against lefty, and it's 8-1.
This copyrighted telecast presented by the authority of the Minnesota Twins and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Minnesota Twins, LLC.
That looked fake. That looked so perfect with the full moon.
That's beautiful.
Twins have a lot of work to do, and Jorge Polanco will lead off the 7th. And a foul ball. 1-1.
Yeah, Sanchez with 7 strikeouts in the ball game. 5 of the last 6 outs have been recorded via the strikeout. Very good strike to ball ratio with 80 total.
Polanco, Grossman, and Centeno. Drive to right and hard off the wall, and Polanco digging for second, and he's in with a double. Jorge Polanco's stinging the ball, getting some extra base hits, and it might have been a home run in some other ballparks, but with the higher wall and right, it's a leadoff double.
A high fastball right here. Watch the quickness of this youngster's bat. Fastball up. Polanco, 22 years old. Good solid swing. And Batista knows it's going to be over his head. Plays the carom, but the speed of Polanco in with a leadoff double here in the bottom of the 7th.
.41 at bats for Polanco in the big leagues, counting 2014, 15, and this year. So let's not get ahead of ourselves or anything like that. 41 at bats. He's only struck out 7 times. Excuse me, 6 times. So he hasn't, so far at least, been overmatched. But and when he hits the ball, it tends to go somewhere.
And the minor leagues, a 287 hitter, so it's not like 240, 250. Good hitter all around from both sides of the plate.
And in the minor leagues, struck out once every 6.5 times. And a strike call to Grossman, who doubled in a run on the first pitch he saw in a Twins uniform. Then he hit a ground ball in the second.
Grossman, 26 years old, originally signed by the Pirates back in 2008.
Two and two. Grossman, first parts of 3 years with the Astros, where they have a retractable roof stadium. Now they're talking about getting one in Arlington, Texas. Outside, 3 and 2.
Not a bad idea. I played in Texas.
But you played at the old place, though.
Yes,
I mean, the new place is only what, 22 years old?
Yeah, it's...
Braves are replacing Turner Field. It's not the oldest ballpark in the world either. They're moving into a new place next year. 3 and 2. And Grossman with a hot ground ball and into right center field. He's got another run batted in. He'll hold up with a single. And Grossman with an RBI double in his first at bat, now an RBI single.
Yeah, nice Twins debut. Robbie Grossman picking up his second RBI. For the Astros in those 3 seasons, he hit 240 in 666 at-bats. The ball down.
Strike presented by Carey.
The ball scoots through the infield. Arnie dives for it, can't get it. And Polanco scores.
Juan Centeno for 2. Popped up, and Donaldson looks like he'll have a play. And Centeno's gone on 1 pitch. Did you ever get to know Jim Ray Hart at all?
Yes, didn't get to know him. I watched him play when he was with the Giants. He was out there with Bobby Bonds.
And even earlier with Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Orlando Cepeda. Hart passed away today at the age of 74. I always felt for Giants fans in the early to mid 60s at least, they had such great teams. And with the exception, I guess, of 1962, they just couldn't get past the Dodgers. One year, what, they won 98 ball games and finished 4 games out of first. Marichal, great pitching staff that he led.
Gaylord Perry started with the Giants.
1-0 to Danny Santana. Single and a triple so far for the Twin center fielder. Right back to the mound and fired into center field. Grossman will hold up at second base, and the Twins have a chance here to take advantage of a critical mistake.
Yeah, throwing error by Sanchez. You cannot turn the double play yourself. You have to rely on your middle infielders, but you have to throw them a strike over the bag.
Well, that was over the bag.
Just a little bit on the high side. I mean, Taylor made double play. He just winged it over the head of Tulowitzki into center field.
And a trip to the mound. Back to the top of the order. Dozier has gone 0 for 3 tonight. Hit the ball hard in his first at bat. Jumped on the first pitch Sanchez threw and lined it right at Josh Donaldson. Then a 2-hopper for a double play grounder in the third, and he struck out in the 5th. Brian, not a great average with runners in scoring position. You saw a 205, but his season average has dropped to 210. Popped up near the Toronto dugout. And out of play.
Bryant just having a tough time squaring up that baseball with the bat.
So far in this series, every ball he's put in play has been to the pull side.
Well, that doesn't surprise, I don't think, the viewers.
Bryant got to the All-Star game last year because he was pulling inside pitches that were up, fastballs for home runs. He's not seeing many of those these days.
Clubs, you know, find out, hey, he's very quick inside, so they're going to basically go hard away. If they come in, they're going to go in off the plate. Like that. A good sinker right there.
3 hits to right field.
Yeah, Brian, last year, 28 home runs. Don't know if that got in his head that, hey, I'm going to hit home runs. Drove in 77 runs, made the All-Star team. 39 doubles, 4 triples. Ryan with 6 doubles, no triples.
The catcher's glove has just consistently been in the same spot, down and away, in the Dozier at bats. That's been the target. Now, was it last night or the day before in Detroit? Somebody made a mistake on a fastball up and in, and he turned on it and hit it just foul, well over the fence. But the target again was down and away. There it is. And a bouncer to short. Double play.
Second double play that Dozier has hit into.
8-2 as we go to the 8th inning.
All of America studio update. On this date, May 20th, 11 years ago, Carlos Silva went to the mound for the Twins and beat the Brewers by a final of 7-1. He threw a complete game on only 74 pitches in a game that took less than 2.5 hours. That was on this day in baseball, 11 years ago tonight.
Less than 2.5 hours. He threw 74 pitches. Yeah. What happened in the other half innings? My goodness. That's a marathon game when one guy just throws 74. Michael Tonkin will pitch to the Blue Jays here in the 8th inning.
Tell you what, remember when Carlos Silva was on, boy, he had a nasty sinker. That one game that he pitched had 6 double plays turned behind him, and then finished the 9th inning covering first base and threw the ball into the upper deck at the Dome. It was awesome. Michael Tonkin coming in. You saw the numbers. He last worked on Wednesday, a couple days ago, 1 shutout inning in Detroit.
Darwin Barney making his first plate appearance. Barney, then Bautista and Donaldson. Just joined us. Tyler Duffy looked like he was doing just fine, and in fact he was through 5 innings. And Darwin Barney tees off into the second deck. The 1, 2, 4th home run for the Blue Jays tonight.
Barney in his second season has a career 21 home runs coming into this at bat with the Cubs and the Dodgers. And Michael Tonkin, fastball came running in on him. And the 3rd home run that Tonkin has allowed on the season.
You could not miss in the strike zone any more than Tonkin just did. Centeno setting up down and away. The pitch was up and in. And Bautista takes the ball 1-1. One and two. Bullpen has been an absolute minefield this year. Everyone who's pitched out there has struggled at one time or another, and it seems to be getting worse.
Yeah, they have not had a very good month of May. In April, they were really good. I mean, they did a good job out there.
Way out in front. Bautista strikes out, 1 away. Carsoup.com trivia. I believe Bautista's on the list of 3 home run games. Darnell Coles, who hit in his major league career 75 home runs, and he got 3 in 1 game against the Twins. Josh Donaldson will bat. Handle of bat back to the screen. Donaldson hit a 2-run home run in the 3rd against Tyler Duffy. And then a double against Trevor May. Strike 2.
You know, the relievers in the month of April, they had a combined 3.28 ERA. Here in the month of May, combined, they are 0-6 with an ERA over 7.
And now Donaldson strikes out, 2 down.
Picking up his 2nd straight strikeout. This is Centeno, where he sat up. Tony Pena used to do that. Benito Santiago got real low like that.
Up and in, ball 1.
Throwing some old-time names out there.
Who were your catchers? Now in Texas you had
Jim
Sundberg. And with the Pirates
we had Ed Ott, Steve Nicosia, and Manny Sanguino.
Okay. One and 1 to Encarnacion, who has hit 4 fly ball outs here tonight.
Actually, Tony Pena was there a little bit. But I like what Centeno's doing right there. Nobody on. He really gives you a low target.
A little bit tougher to do that with somebody on who might try to steal because you're in no throwing position.
Right.
That was a pretty hefty bat toss too. Had one last night.
Yeah, he had a bat toss last night. Hopefully everybody's all right. That's the main concern. They have that screen that now protects, you know, those people in the first 4 or 5 rows, but this one went over the screen.
2-2. And a foul that hits the screen and stays on the, keeps the ball on the field of play. Plouffe charges, gets the second hop, and then Encarnacion just lightly jogs to first. The inning is over, but Darwin Barney hits another Toronto home run.
To the ballpark, they're down 7 against their friends from north of the border. Stay with us directly after the game for Twins Live, presented by CenturyLink. We talked about it before the first game of the series. The Blue Jays love hitting here. 5 more home runs in this series, 4 tonight. That's 35 in their last 22 at Target Field. We'll have our analyst, Jack Morris, tell you how they get it done so well in this ballpark. We'll also take a look at a nice Twins debut for Robbie Grossman. He's had a couple of clutch hits tonight. We'll take you inside the clubhouse. We'll hear from the manager, Paul Mowders. The Twins likely will have to win the final 2 games this weekend to salvage a split, guys, in this series.
Well, I don't know how Paul is, although we don't see him smile very often. He's tried to fight through this. Hall of Fame managers have an added challenge when they're managing because they were able to perform at such a high level. Frank Robinson went through it. Ted Williams went through it. It's not easy when you've excelled. Drew Storen into the ballgame to pitch to Nunez. It's not easy when you personally have excelled and been able to put together a Hall of Fame career to watch a lot of what Paul's had to watch, and it's been very, very painful and disappointing for Twins fans, and I can promise you it's been very painful and hard to watch for that man too. 1 strike. Lifted to left center. He put the barrel on it. He'll send Saunders back near the warning track. 1 away.
It's been a tough go-around for Drew Storen, too, in his first season with the Toronto Blue Jays, coming over from the Washington Nationals, traded over the winter for Ben Revere, and a player to be named later. Saved 29 games last year for the Nationals, had 43 back in 2011. That led the National League.
Joe Mauer hitting 0 for 3. Joe's average down to 260 now. Down and away, ball 1. I think we all were encouraged. As much as the team struggled in April, we were encouraged to see Joe doing Joe Mauer type things, drawing walks, getting hits. But now May, it's been just kind of a very flat, poor month for Joe.
Everybody just in a rut.
And there's a base hit to left. On a 1-out single, and Sano will come up with a man aboard.
Storen staying with that fastball. Joe, just as he does so well, takes that ball the other way for his first hit. For the Twins, their 9th in the ball game.
Sano with an infield hit in the 2nd inning, and then he cracked a double toward the bullpen in the 6th. Can't blame Twins fans, I don't think, if they've resorted to looking for components of competitiveness. They want to see improvement at this point from Sano. He still hasn't spent 6 months in the big leagues. And a strike called 0-2, and he can't believe that. And now he's got to be careful if he wants to stay in the game.
Well, if I'm a pitcher right now, I'm going to go fastball about 4 or 5 inches outside. The last thing you want to do is start showing up the umpire. And you can see where Martin is set up. Another slider, but that one down.
You know, we've seen the prodigious power from Sano, but I think ideally the Twins would like to see him settle in the 270, 280 range in terms of a batting average, and then you mix in the walks and you've got an on-base percentage of maybe over 400.
Now going inside.
Full foul.
Well, Sano, 5 minor league seasons, a 280 hitter. Of course, last year came up, hit 269 in 80 ball games, hit 18 home runs, drove in 52.
1-2 to Sano. And now 2-2.
Good take on that slider.
So many players that we've seen come up and have an impact, have some success early on, have had to go back down. Sano is the exception, at least to this point. 2-2. Breaking ball.
Oh,
Brought
boy.
him up. And that might be very related to.
I can't say anything.
Keep going to the dugout, and you'll be fine, I think. And Paul Molitor now picking up the argument.
I think Andy Fletcher was just looking for that right pitch to ring him up when he showed him up after strike 2.
So 2 down, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts for Sano, and now Trevor Plouffe. Swing and a miss.
Well, take a look at the last. Looked like a breaking ball up.
Nowhere near Martin's target, which didn't sit well with the Twins dugout, but Fox Tracks had it on the corner.
Right.
Oh, and 2. Trevor's had a tough ball game. Short fly ball in the 4th, and so far 2 strikeouts.
Those are sunflower seeds, in case you're wondering, not his teeth.
Wasn't a good at bat, but it wasn't that bad.
No. Nothing to lose your teeth over.
1-2. Now that's a very real problem in the fantasy camp, because you know we've got guys who are 50, 60, 70 years old, and sometimes the teeth just come out. Popped up short left field. Tulowitzki out, and he will make the catch to end the bottom of the 8th inning. A tight ball game in 11 innings last night, but they have flexed their muscles, plural. 4 home runs from 4 different batters. And Ryan Presley will get the 9th inning.
Yeah, Ryan started the 11th inning on last night's ball game. He got a strikeout of Donaldson, and Encarnacion ended up getting a base hit, and then he was taken out of the ball game. Ended up getting the loss when Tulowitzki against Fernando Abad got that game-winning RBI single. Presley making his 21st relief appearance.
Johnson Smoke will lead things off, then Michael Saunders and Troy Tulowitzki. Strike one. Smoke with 2 singles his first 2 times up, and a strikeout and a ground ball to short. And speared in right field. Nice play by Polanco. 1 down.
Yeah, Smoke hit that ball. He smoked that ball, but Polanco was playing a short right field. Ended up making the play.
Michael Saunders will bat. 3 hits, including a home run over the wall in right field against Taylor Rogers.
I mentioned last night's ball game. Saunders played in only 9 games last year. He had knee surgery that put him out for most of the season. You know, his 6 years in Seattle, he was a .231 hitter. Right now, hitting at .319.
And a strike call.
Came over a couple years ago in December in a trade with the Seattle Mariners.
Things started to come together for him in his last year with Seattle when he hit .273. 231 at bats, 8 home runs, 34 runs batted in. And you know, again, Twins fans are waiting for, you know, these young guys that we've seen the last couple of years to figure it out and be productive hitters. And time after time, roster after roster, you see players like Saunders, who now approaching his 2000th at bat. Looks like he's figured some things out. Might be a good player for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Right.
This is his 12th year of professional baseball. And we'd all like it to have, you know, somebody like Mike Trout come out of the minor leagues and immediately become an MVP candidate, or almost immediately, but it just so rarely happens. Down and in. I'll be very curious, provided Byron Buxton and Max Kepler continue to do well in AAA, how long it will take for the Twins to call them up to see what they're going to do here. This has all the appearances at this point of a lost season in terms of being competitive for a postseason berth, maybe even a winning record.
A lot of people think, you know, like in 1982, Dick. I mean, we watched, you know, a lot of these young kids come up, and a strikeout right there for Presley. And Saunders goes down on strikes. The Twins lose here today. They are 10-31. Can you pull for the Atlanta Braves to keep losing?
Two down, and now Troy Tulowitzki.
I guess I didn't pull hard enough because the Braves won 7-1 over the Phillies today.
Okay. You know, on the downside, Twins have been a huge disappointment. How about the Phillies? My goodness. It's a fly to right, Sano getting under it. And Presley has a nice, orderly, tidy 1-2-3 9th inning. 9-2. With the Blue Jays hitting 4 home runs in the game. And Jorge Polanco will lead things off for the Twins in the 9th against Chad Guerrero.
Guerrero coming out of the bullpen, making his 9th relief appearance in his rookie season. Made his major league debut back in late April. A couple stints with the Blue Jays this year. Started in AAA.
Polanco doubled and scored his last time up as a left-handed batter, now hitting from the right side. We don't know much about, there's Kevin Pillar in center field. We don't know much about Polanco and his abilities, his chances of being an impact player for the Twins. As a right-handed batter, he has just 1 hit in 7 at-bats. It was a double. But I would think the chances increase by every day that we'll get a longer look at players like Polanco, and then maybe later Buxton, Kepler, players like that. Two and two, unless or until a player looks like he's overmatched up here. There's nothing wrong with sending them out there and trying to assess whether they can handle things up here. 2 and 2. And now 3 and 2.
You know, it's up to the organization to decide when to kind of pull the plug, I guess, and do maybe what they did in '82. I don't remember if they went into the season with that intention.
Start of the 1982 season was supposed to be a pivotal year for the Twins. There's a fly ball to right, and Bautista. No, that's not Bautista. That's Carrera out there in right field.
Carrera taking over, Bautista out of the ballgame.
You have to remember the context of the 1982 season. That was the year that was going to save the franchise for the Griffith family. We'll take a look at what's next, brought to you by CenturyLink. Day game tomorrow. And we'll get a look at a left-handed pitcher, and he's off to a good start, too. Jay Happ of the Blue Jays, and Pat Dean going for the Twins. He's also a lefty.
Yeah, for Pat Dean, this is his major league start tomorrow, his 3rd appearance.
And now Grossman, also a switch hitter, will hit. But the 1982 season was supposed to be a pivotal year for the Griffith family because they were moving into the luxurious, fantastic new Metrodome.
With no air conditioning.
With no air conditioning. And I still run into fans to this day, Bert, who will tell me that when they went into the Metrodome for the first time, they didn't like it, and they never went back. 1987, didn't matter. They didn't like the whole idea of indoor baseball. Couldn't stand it. Here's Grossman with a drive to left center field. And gone, a home run. What a debut in a Twins uniform for Robbie Grossman. 3 hits, 3 run-producing hits, and a home run.
Grossman hitting it as a right-handed hitter. A switch hitter that has, looks like, power from both sides of the plate. Not a lot of home runs, only his 12th career home run. But you're right, what a debut for Robbie Grossman. An RBI double in the 1st, an RBI single in the 7th, and then a home run here in the bottom of the 9th. So 3 hits, he's driven in 3 runs, and now scored a run.
One strike. As a switch hitter, pretty good bet he'll be in the lineup tomorrow against the lefty.
A nice crowd today, or tonight, 29,396.
Bouncer to second. 2 down. And that'll bring up Santana.
Grossman, as a right-handed hitter, got a fastball, little cutter from a side armor, and hit it into the bullpen area.
And now Danny Santana will hit as a right-handed batter. This might not seem like much. Twins are still down by 6 runs, but Santana needs some work from the right side of the plate. They're going to have a left-handed starter tomorrow. The Twins haven't run into too many of those. And Santana just 1 hit in 14 at bats from this side of the plate. Maybe he can have a good at bat and build his confidence and have some productive at bats tomorrow. 14 at bats from this side of the plate, 4 strikeouts, a couple of walks, and the 1 hit, 1-1. And a ground ball right side, gobbled up by Barney. And the Blue Jays in a romp. And the Twins another loss. 9-3 the final score tonight. And Tom Hanneman, the Twins off to a rough start in the 7-game homestand.
Indeed, Dick. Tonight's loss combined with Atlanta's win gives the Twins the worst record in all of Major League Baseball. Up next on Twins Live, we'll talk about a big night for the Blue Jays. Terrific debut for Robbie Grossman. We'll hear from Paul Molitor and preview Game 3 tomorrow.